Autism is a lifelong developmental condition
that affects how people perceive the world and interact with others.
And how they experience the world around them. It's very much just a different way of thinking. I'm the father of an autistic lad. He's 18 now, and I know that when he was first diagnosed, when he was around 2, both his mother, Angela, and I very much embarked on a new experience that none of us had mapped out, and none of us had a clue where we were going. And it was at that time really that we needed something like the Leeds Autism Services, because you need people who know what's ahead and know what the journey entails.
Leeds Autism Services, a Leeds-based charity. It was set up in 1985, initially by a Christian couple who had a vision for not only the needs of the area, but particularly the needs of their son, who was diagnosed with autism, and they were concerned about his well-being and future care. I think it's important these days that people in the wider sphere are aware of autism as a particular condition. It's not a curable condition, it's a condition that will affect everyone who has it for the rest of their lives.
The good thing, however, is that with the right level of help and support, people with autism are able to have fulfilling lives, and the services that Leeds Autism Service offers is a really good example of that kind of support and help that does help people to flourish and live fulfilling lives in our city.
I only really became involved and started to question what autism really was when I was researching for a character in The Syndicate. The character actually was of Godfrey, played by Lenny Henry.
Yes, but the numbers were wrong, and I've only got £334,001.84 left. Now I've paid Amy's reward and bought the new tractor and...
Oh, is Amy the girl that's got misses in the...
Excuse me, I haven't finished talking.
Sorry.
And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if he had some sort of condition that just made him slightly, heightened really, a heightened realism. For me, he was a lovable character, endearing, sweet-natured, and I tried to smash a few of the preconceptions about autism. I tried my best. I also saw the A Word.
In the drama I wrote called The A Word, which is about a family who can't communicate, and at their heart is a child on the autism spectrum. Well, actually, none of the family can communicate, and that's kind of the problem of the show, and nor can they communicate about his condition.
You need to come up with strategies in which Joe becomes part of the game. But at the moment, the communication in his family, spoken, unspoken, it's not stuff you even see yourself. So imagine me and Joe. He doesn't understand the message in the first place and doesn't have the tools to respond even if he did.
From my experience, autism is a condition that affects communication and social interaction. So it's quite a hard thing to describe, and that's always been part of the problem in diagnosing autism. I mean, the other thing I think is the assumption that everybody with autism has a learning disability, which also just isn't the case. Some people with autism have severe learning disabilities, some have none at all.
They do say that if you know a person with autism, you know one person with autism, because it's such a wide spectrum. When my son was diagnosed with autism, I had no idea what autism was. I'd seen the film Rain Man, which most people have seen, but my son wasn't like that. My son was 2.5 years old. And what I discovered it was that he was overwhelmed by the world, for all the different sensations, and especially sound, and he wears headphones. And we had to understand what it's like to be overwhelmed by the world.
You can't tell that people have autism just by looking at them, and so therefore people can become misunderstood, and I think very often they can become quite easily socially isolated. When I work with people with autism, my role is to try and develop social interactivity, and we use an approach called intensive interaction. Now, the intensive interaction approach is an approach to helping people develop their communication and their sociability, so their willingness and ability to socially interact with other people. And what we try and do when we are working with people with autism, and I work particularly with people with a learning disability and autism, is find ways of enabling them to be more interactive by us being responsive to what they currently do, either joining in with their current activity or in some way reflecting aspects of that back, so that social communication and social interactivity becomes much easier for them.
Often there might be behaviours that the wider public misinterpret as potentially aggressive or a little bit eccentric or so on. But the other thing is that we live in a world where there is endless media, endless kind of, the term I suppose is sensory overload I'm looking for.
It's very difficult for somebody that hasn't got sensory overload to understand what the world is like for somebody with sensory overload. I can be sat with my son eating a meal, and he will put his hands on his ears, and I will say, but it's quiet, what is it that's the problem? And it could be a car in the distance, it could be the sound of his own eating being too much for his ears. Very often I'm guessing at what it is. Sometimes he's able to tell me. But of course, these are just moments. And the problem is, people with autism, it's 24 hours a day.
From my understanding of the people I've worked with, the work can be a difficult place to cope with autism, because the social environment can be sometimes overstimulating, with too many channels of communication open. It can be very distracting and anxiety causing because of sensory hypersensitivities.
You know, spend an hour in the company of someone with autism and your life will be enriched actually. Not, you know, don't think you're doing some great benign thing. Your life will be enriched, and I've never not found that to be the case.
I have to say that Leeds Autism Services were amazing and very, very helpful when I was doing my research, and allowed me to go into the centre and meet lots of different people.
I've seen at close hand how people really benefit from those services and really value the facilities and services that are on offer.
I've been with Leeds Autism Services for about 4 years now. They support me in a lot of different ways. They come and to my house 3 times a week and support me. I like all my support workers who support me from LES, and I think they do a really good job of supporting people with autism. My autism affects me quite badly because I find it, sometimes I'm isolated all the time in the house, and I find it quite hard to get out of the house, but with the support from LES, they've really boosted my confidence and helped me get through life a lot easier. They got me involved with 2 photography competitions, and I've won 2 years in a row, and I've been doing a lot of photography for traditional stone in the past year or so.
Traditional Stone became involved with Leeds Autism Services initially through a photography competition where we met Daniel Lee, who has become a friend and a character every time he comes down to see us to take photographs for us. He always brings energy and a little bit of excitement into the yard when he comes down to see us.
Well, autism is very close to my heart. I have a 9-year-old boy who is on the autistic spectrum, so I know from personal experience the barriers, the obstacles that people with autism have that they have to overcome.
When I was younger, I was bullied and very emotionally didn't understand how the world is. But luckily, I came to a place where I'm welcomed, feel special and understood, and I just really enjoy life now.
Certainly in terms of how people with autism are understood or are accepted by people in society. I would like to think that that's improved over, say, the last 10 or 15 years. I don't think it's as good as it can be by a long way, but I do think that the profile of people with autism has become more to the fore in the media, and people perhaps are more willing to talk about autism than previously would be the case. People identify people with autistic condition as some people needing support and help, where previously they might have been judgmental and negative about the condition. I think there's a better understanding generally in society nowadays.
I think it's really important to raise awareness of autism so that people can begin to understand autism, and also ignorance breeds sort of conflict. People can lash out when they think that, you know, something's not normal, and we have to be more tolerant as a society for, you know, for people that have got any kind of disability, or just somebody that doesn't fit into the norm, inverted commas.
Unemployment rates, for instance, amongst people with autism are higher than average, and shouldn't be, because they cover a range of skills. So it can only be people's attitude to autism that's getting in the way of employment opportunities, it seems to me.
If you speak to people in the street, most people's first reaction to the word autism is Rain Man. They've seen Rain Man. And I think Rain Man was a great film, and I think the portrayal of Rain Man was great. But you can't represent the full spectrum of autism with one person. So what we need is more and more representations, and I'm glad to say nowadays there are more. My wife wrote a film called Snowcake. There's the Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night. There's a brilliant book recently called The Reason I Jump. There are attempts both on television, in books, on stage, to address the issue of autism. And once it gets to a situation where we all know what it is we're talking about, the way it will be understood within society will be so much better, because we won't have to go through the first steps of explaining it all the time. We can get a little bit more sophisticated.
And I think it's also incredibly important that the general public stop seeing autism as a problem and just see it as part of the great range of human behaviours that we witness every day.
You know, we need to get the word out there, and we need to get people talking about autism, and then it becomes more acceptable. It becomes more, I think people become more accepting and not frightened. People are fearful sometimes of things that they don't understand. And I think it's good that the media are starting to recognise that this is, you know, that there are a lot of people that have this condition, and it's not anything, you know, to be fearful of.
Well, raising awareness about autism is very important, so that people can come to understand the condition and how it affects people, and can also therefore come to understand how to help people overcome, say, the social impairment of autism. And that is the main feature of, I think, the responsibility that we all hold, is being able to find ways to help people with autism in terms of their social communication and social integration. It's our responsibility to do something about that, to create an autism-friendly social environment around those people.
There are things that arise when you're raising a child with autism that don't arise when you're not. And one of the striking things is a kind of strain that maybe constant attention or maybe needs not being met can put on the family as a whole, siblings too. And I think that any support that is given both to the person with autism and their family helps that family then to be the bedrock for that person with autism's life.
Joseph attending LAS has made a massive difference to us as a family and to him as well, and it was one of the best things that's ever happened to him and to us as a family. Well, Joseph has blossomed since he started going to LAS. Not just the fact that he attends, but the fact that he attends almost all the year round. Just loves it, because he gets all the one-to-one from people who understand him and how you know his autism affects him, and he's just grown into a really wonderful young man who I can now take out almost anywhere. And now he loves talking to people, talks to anybody now, but once they've met him, they don't forget him, and it's fabulous.
We as a family have come together through the help of Leeds Autism Service. I always feel that if I have a problem, that I can go to Leeds Autism Services and they will listen to me and they will steer me through all the problems and be there by our side while we're doing it. I have utmost admiration for them. They seem to see it more than a job. And I think it's down to Leeds Autism Services. They've made Cathy more sociable, more relaxed, more outgoing, and just generally, they have given us our daughter back, and as such, they've given us our life back.
Any funds that we get are not for the ongoing support of the business. The whole of our business is supported by the funds that we get for the services that we provide. We are fundraising specifically for specialist items that can help the day-to-day lives of the service users who we work with. Particularly, for example, we've been able to buy a minibus, or we fitted out a new sensory room, or we provided a life skills kitchen. These are the sort of things that we're looking for funds for, not to pay salaries, not to pay for the ongoing overheads of the business.
It's a wonderful charity. I think everyone should be doing everything they possibly could to try and support this charity. The community really benefits from people giving back. So I implore everybody to do as much as you possibly can to try and raise as much money as you can do for these autism services moving forward.
If you could see the difference that LAS has made, I don't think you'd hesitate to fundraise. It's something that is done just for these people. Without them, I don't know what had happened to us if we didn't have someone like Leeds Autism Service backing us up and supporting us. And the only way they can do that is if people are prepared to fundraise.
It's a very, very worthwhile cause. Every penny goes to the service users. It changes people's lives, and I just don't mean it changes my daughter's lives. Of course, it changes other service users' lives. It changes the lives of our family.
So my son's 18 now, and he's been through the schooling services, but he's not stopped being autistic. He's going to be autistic for the rest of his life. So you need services for autistic adults.
It's an absolutely brilliant service that's autism specific, and for young people like Joseph, it's very important. He's blossomed and grown in confidence since he's gone to LAS, and it means that as a family we're so much happier because Joseph is happy, and when he's happy, that makes it brilliant for the rest of us.
Leeds Autism Services is one of a kind. There's not another place out there. So always make it special and make that donation count.
Your donations also help to ensure we're able to reach out to more people and promote understanding and acceptance through holding events, providing training and education about autism. In other words, Leeds Autism Services helps to provide the kind of things that we take for granted that enable people with autism to have a social life and to get about the place, and that's why Leeds Autism Services is very deserving of any support, financial or otherwise, we can give it.
You know, I can't think of a more worthy cause really, to be honest with you, and I think that we do have to put our hands in the pockets, because I think with cuts today, we all know that that we're cutting from those very people that need the money and they need the support. Both people that have got autism and the families of. You can alter and make the difference to somebody's life. That has to be a good thing.
Yes, it's really, really important that Leeds Autism Services receives more funding from both the public and organisations in the city, so that they're able to carry on doing the great work that they're doing. I, for one, will certainly keep helping in as many ways that I can, but yes, please dig deep and help this great organisation to continue to give great service to people with autism going forward.
I think when people do get involved, they find that it's fun. and they find a great sense of community, and they find a great sense of achievement.
The reason I chose Leeds Autism Services is because they provide care for people living in the Leeds communities that have the condition of autism. And I've also personally got a son who has been diagnosed with autism since the age of 3 and is now 19. So I've actually lived through autism in the family. What I'd ask today is just look at me doing my first ultra, and anybody can take part in fundraising for this great cause. So please, whatever you do today, have a look at what I'm doing on a cold November morning, and think of ways that you can contribute, that you can raise funds for Leeds Autism Services, this very important cause, which quite often is overlooked.
Here is a snapshot of some of the things that we've already done, and we encourage you to help us, to be part of it, and for all those who are going to be part of it, thank you very much for everything that you've done for LAS.
Right, everybody should donate to Leeds Autism Services, and here's why. Because they help make a real difference to the lives of people with autism. They will help to make West Yorkshire an autism-friendly society. Don't think of it as a donation. Think of it as a subscription to make the world a more civilised place. Thank you.